But first, Boston wins last night 107-89 against the Dallas Mavericks. And listen, this was during the NFL season, I have 3 specific games that I really zero in on when it comes to predicting. One is called Bryson's Bleak Bet. One is called If I Were a Betting Man. And the last is Upset of the Week. Upset of the Week, pretty self-explanatory. If I Were a Betting Man is the one game because I don't bet. But if I did bet, there'd be one game that I absolutely, jump in on that game and bet. Chiefs Dolphins was my all-time. If I Were a Betting Man during the playoffs a few months ago, that obviously ended up being correct. And this one, Bryson's Bleak Bet. As I always say, it's the one game that I've absolutely zero confidence in predicting. But hey, you got to predict them all. It's the NBA Finals, man. I'm not just going to chicken out of a game 1 pick just because I don't know what's going to happen. So I picked Boston. My gut told me Boston was going to win. It's game 1. You don't want to go down 0-1 at home to Luka Doncic, who's playing with hot grease over the last couple of months and has in the NBA playoffs really throughout his career. Certainly this season, no question about it. Boston wins last night. I think, listen, we talk about the Porzingis performance. Kristaps Porzingis, after not playing for 38 days, was fantastic, right? Kristaps Porzingis drops 20 points in 21 minutes, 8 for 13 from the field, 2 for 4 from three-point range. And oh, by the way, he decided to chip in and make us a block party. 3 blocks in, I believe it was just the first quarter alone, finished with 3 for the game. Jaylen Brown was really good last night as well. Jaylen Brown dropped 22, was the leading scorer for the Celtics. And it was kind of one of those classic Boston team efforts, right? Locking in the defensive end. Dallas's ice cold shooting from 3. We'll talk about Kyrie a little later in the show, but it was kind of the classic Boston game 1 win, kind of collaborative. And what I will say, I got to give credit to one guy in particular who I've been critical of, and I still need to see if he's able to do this over the course of a 7-game series against an opponent that is at least close to, if not on your level, in Dallas. Dallas obviously is the best opponent the Celtics have played throughout the playoffs and the healthiest. Is the fact that when Luka Doncic, so the Celtics go into the locker room, right? The Celtics go into the locker room at halftime. They're up by 21 points. Make sure I get this right. 21 points, right? Luka goes on this personal one-man run, cuts the lead down to 8 midway through the third. It's like, hang on a second. Game 1 may be one of those that comes down the wire on this big comeback. Reminiscent of what Dallas did all the way back in 2011 in their last finals appearance against Miami. Remember that game 2 in Miami where Dirk and the Mavs made that crazy run and ended up leading to them winning that series in 6. Joe Mazzulla calls the timeout. Deep breath. Luka's going to go on his runs. Luka's one of the best basketball players alive. Deep breath. And 14-0 run for Boston. Got the lead back up to 22. Drew Holiday's locking it down the defensive end. Jaylen Brown doing his thing. And again, Jason Tatum, who we'll talk about in just a second, contributed, got a lot of offensive rebounds last night, was really active on the boards, but although an inefficient shooting performance. But what I thought was, and the reason I still feel very confident in Dallas winning this series, and I'll throw out a Luka stat that's going to back this up as the show goes on, but I think for Dallas, and again, we talk about the lackluster game 1 record. I think what the Dallas Mavericks and their fans should feel good about is Boston, because of their depth, because of they have 3 guys who average 20 points per game this season: Tatum, Brown, Porzingis. You know what? Drew Holiday, who I don't think will be that good offensively in this series because of the load he has to carry defensively, guarding either Luka or Kyrie Irving. Derek White's capable of giving you 20 as well. Is the fact that Boston goes on this crazy run. Porzingis really by himself goes on this crazy run into the first quarter, right? Boston ends up winning the first quarter by 17 points. They won the game by 18 points. So they were a +1 the last 36 minutes of action. So if you're a Dallas fan, you're like, hey, this is our first finals, Luka's first finals. Kyrie hasn't played in this stage in 7 years. Nobody in this team's played in the NBA Finals. Boston played in it 2 years ago. Al Horford's been there, done that. I think Al Horford has the second most career playoff games without winning a championship to to Karl Malone. He actually passed John Stockton recently. Tatum's been there. Brown's been there. And if you're a Dallas fan, you think, okay, once we settled in, Kyrie didn't have a good game, but Luka sort of settled in, made that big run the third quarter. Luka had a solid game last night. None of the other Mavericks showed up offensively consistently. It was basically dead even for the last 36 minutes of the game. Now you could say, well, Boston took their foot off the gas. Okay, with about 4 minutes left and they took their starters out, but Boston was going full speed ahead. Jaylen Brown was getting involved in the passing lanes, as was Drew Holiday. As was Al Horford, who, by the way, on Luka Doncic, this is a shocking stat, ladies and gentlemen. When Al Horford, the oldest player in the series, was guarding Luka Doncic, you know what Luka shot from the field? 1 for 8, 0 for 4 from 3. Al Horford also blocked one of Luka's shots. Now, is that a matchup that I think is going to continue to favor the Boston Celtics? I don't. I just don't. With all due respect to Al Horford, who's been as reliable a player as there is in the NBA for a very long time, that's not a matchup that's going to continuously favor Boston. Again, Luka will make the adjustments. And as I said, coming into game one, and part of the reason my gut told me Boston was going to win this game is the fact that Luka treats game ones the way LeBron treats game ones, but also how Belichick and Brady would treat first quarters in Super Bowls. Remember all those Patriots? Tom and Bill made 9 Super Bowls in 18 years. I think it was 18 years. And you always remember after the first quarter, you're like, gosh, New England can't get much going offensively. Because Bill and Tom knew in their psyche, smart football IQs, guys, it's a long game. Let's not overreact. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see what looks at the other defensive coordinators throwing at us. Belichick, obviously, running the Patriots defense, what the other offense is throwing at us. We'll adjust on the fly. Certainly we will at halftime. Tom will find a rhythm. The Patriots defense will come up with some big plays in big key situational positions, and we'll win 6 Super Bowls in 9 tries. That's how I think Luka treats game ones. Now, is that how Dallas treats game ones? I don't know. Again, under Jason Kidd, they've won 2 game ones. One of them was actually without Luka. This was Jason Kidd's first playoff game as the Mavs coach. This is 2022 first round against the Utah Jazz. Jalen Brunson, when he was on the Mavs, had a big game, had a really good series a couple of years back. And then the game 1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, they won. That's it. But I think what would be, if you're a Mavs fan, again, something else that you should feel optimistic about is the fact, if we can show the stat right here, since 2022, and I went back that far because A, that's Luka's first deep playoff run, got to the Western Conference Finals, and because that was Jason Kidd's first run as the Mavs head coach. When coming off of a loss in the playoffs, this is what Luka Doncic does, ladies and gentlemen. All stats provided by our friends at StatMuse. All the graphics provided by my man Alfred Parsard Jr. Luka Doncic following a playoff loss since 2022 averages, 33 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, shoots almost 50% from the field, 40 from 3, and the Mavs are 9-3 with Luka Doncic following a playoff loss since 2022. So my guess is, and I'll predict game 2 at the end of today's show, but my guess is you're going to get a much more competitive game. Listen, we've seen blowout game 1s the losing team goes on to win the series countless times. Think about 2 years ago in the finals, these same Celtics, most of the key players, against my Warriors in 2022 in Golden State. Boston is getting not necessarily smoked, but outplayed significantly by the Warriors. And then Boston goes berserk from 3, ends up winning the game, I think, by double digits over my Warriors. And Golden State still went on to win the series. You think about the 2021 finals. Phoenix blows out Milwaukee in game 1, blows out Milwaukee in game 2. Bucks went out and win the series. Think about 2016. Don't remind me. My Warriors blow out the Cavs in game 1, obliterate them in game 2, lose 4 of the next 5 games, including blowing the first 3-1 lead in finals history. So this is a very common theme, even in recent finals history, that, again, I think even Celtics fans agree. The best player in the series is Luka. And again, do the Celtics length cause problems? You bet. Does the fact that the Mavs have 2 bigs who aren't terribly versatile in guarding the perimeter, which is why, and I tweeted about this during the game, Jason Kidd said, hey, Lively, Gafford, you saw Lively got in foul trouble. We're going to put you in the block, basically dare Al Horford to beat us from 3. And by and large, that mostly worked for the Mavericks. Al Horford, who started for Porzingis, shot 2 for 5 from 3, but was mostly missing his shots early, was kind of making them once Boston kind of pulled away toward the end of that first quarter and rode that wave for the rest of the basketball game. But for Boston, credit to them. They were the better team. Again, they are viewed as the deeper team, although I did my top 10 players in this series yesterday, which I'm going to clip up and put on YouTube. And I actually had 5 Mavs and 5 Celtics. Like it might be surprising. I had Porzingis at 6. Maybe I should move him to 5. I don't know. Maybe I should have him over Drew Holiday in this series. He's a big-time performance. So kudos to the Celtics, and I think the Mavs will come out with a much better game plan in game 2. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.